Hello, everyone. I'm the Holy Hermit, and I welcome you to episode 5 of our podcast. This one is going to be extra special because I have someone awesome with me today. So let me just shut up and let the guy say a few words to you. And your job as a viewer is to figure out who he is. So, sir, would you please introduce yourself?
There's going to be spoilers. G'day, Ziggy D here. Oh, who is it? I think it might be Ziggy D. Welcome, guys. Awesome to be here.
All right, welcome to our podcast, guys. Now, I say our podcast because I have to tell you a little backstory before we start the whole thing. This gentleman here and we actually did a video a long time ago, and by that I mean he helped me out when I was like a tiny little fish in the ocean, and I still am, by the way. So, he's not listening right now because I've asked him to, close his ears and all, but he's been awesome to me. He's a good friend of mine, and when I wanted to do, the real official podcast and invite a guest on it, I wanted him to be the first person. So there he is today. This man has so many awesome things to share with us about Diablo 3. So here we go, guys. We're going to kick into the podcast. And
Jeez, inflating that head. Inflating that head.
Hey, you didn't hear that, did you?
That right. La 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 la.
Exactly, yeah, there we go.
Well, for those of you guys who don't know me, I am a YouTuber and live streamer. I do make videos and live streams for Diablo 3, Path of Exile, Heroes, a couple of different games. Diablo 3 is kind of what started it all for me. And even though I play the game less a little bit these days, I'm always keeping tabs on the game, always checking out whenever something new is added in, always reading the news, always reading the Reddit, always watching various live streams. I love the game. I just can't get enough of it, even if it doesn't hold my interest each day in terms of playing it.
Yeah, I mean, he's tried, but he cannot get away from Diablo, guys.
That's it.
At heart, he is a demon hunter, as we know. And yeah, I'm glad to have him on the show. And it's our show, not my show, because I'm an idiot. So there we go, guys. He has something to share with us. Now, I want to really get into the start of the show to get into the biggest topic there is. Now, someone here in this podcast actually went to Blizzcon. So that's definitely not me, sir. That was you.
Oh!
Pretty awesome, man. He's like, oh, did I really go there? No. So please do tell us about that experience, right? Because we're going to talk about different parts of Diablo, how things are changing, all that. That'll come later. But, the biggest news for me is that experience must have been something else, right? So would you please describe the whole thing for us? How did it go?
I actually had a chance to go all the way to the USA. I'm from Australia, in case you couldn't tell from my accent, for those of you guys who don't know me. And I had the chance to go out to the USA to visit BlizzCon and Anaheim and all that. Just for the actual days, didn't really spend any extra time in the US, just there for BlizzCon. But that was all thanks to the guys here at Blizzard Australia. I've met a few of the people in the Blizzard Australian team now. Actually, I've met pretty much all of them. And they're just like excellent and really supportive. And they're trying to kind of expand things out beyond traditional journalism. They typically fly out and help out with accommodation for print journalists and website editors and stuff like that to be able to go to BlizzCon. And they knew this was going to be a big BlizzCon because back then they didn't say why it was going to be a big BlizzCon, but we found out when we were there because of the Overwatch announcement. But they wanted to also start bringing out some YouTubers, so I was their choice for someone to bring out for that. So wouldn't have been able to do it otherwise. So shout outs to the awesome team at Blizzard Australia New Zealand for taking me out there because it was an amazing experience. And although Diablo 3 took a little bit of a backseat, I think, in terms of announcements, it was still really interesting being able to see the panels, and most importantly for me, probably one of the biggest highlights was being able to interview Wyatt Chang from the Diablo 3 development team. That was kind of like a mind-blowing, awesome thing to do. So yeah, I had a great time with it.
Awesome. So you did mention an awesome thing, like, you're a YouTuber, that's so amazing, and you're doing the whole journalism thing, and you actually did it well. Like, I saw the video on Reddit, like the day one when you posted it there, like I saw it and I messaged you, man, this is so amazing. So please, let's talk about that interview, because I have some questions about that. Like, how did it go, by the way? Like, how did you meet him? And he knew you, man. That was so amazing, right? As like someone like you, but in a smaller scale, someone who makes videos, and it's such an awesome thing. The man knew you, he recognized you, and the thumbs up in the end was like a cherry on the cake. But how did the whole interview go? Like, how did you arrange that? How did that thing came to be?
So I arranged with the Australia New Zealand guys. They were like, what would you be interested in covering while you're there? And I'll be like, oh, anything Diablo, hands down. Like anything Diablo, you guys can get me in touch with. Like, I was like, yeah, they might be able to hook me up with like one of the artists, because I had an interview with an artist in the past or something like that, and I'll just try and like drill as much cool information out of there. But then when they actually organised an interview with Wyatt Chang, my mind was kind of blown there. But yeah, so I went into the interview room, and they're kind of like little cubicles, like soundproof cubicles. So he couldn't see me, But I was talking outside just before we went in, and like even before I walked in the room, even before he saw me, he was like, I recognize that voice. I was like, what?
Wow.
So I asked him about that, and he said they've watched a few of my videos and stuff like that in the past. So that was like awesome to hear that some of the developers have actually watched your content. But I think that's less about me, and I think that's more about the Diablo 3 team, because those guys are pretty in touch with the community overall, and I think they do spend a lot of time watching streams and videos and stuff like that, and trying to keep their finger on the pulse. But the interview itself was awesome. I actually kind of like wasted the first 10 minutes of the interview, just like, well, not really wasted. It wasn't a waste for me, but I just kind of like just talked to him. I just wanted to chat. Like it was awesome. So just kind of like talked about the game.
If I may jump in then.
Yeah.
Sorry. So the first 10 minutes, guys, this is secret news, by the way, all right? That's not in the interview then. The first 10 minutes are not recorded. So what did you talk about that? Come on, let's spill the beans here then.
We're just talking about BlizzCon and kind of what they've been up to. Nothing too secret got left out of the interview. I got the main things in the interview, I think. But it was just kind of good to meet someone and talk to them on a personal level rather than just go in there as a journalist. Because that's the thing, although I was flown there with a bunch of journalists, I wasn't a journalist. I was just a fan being there, kind of like having the opportunity to cover it, but also the opportunity to experience it. So that was awesome. But in the interview, we talked about a few different things. We talked about Season 2, about the upcoming patch. I tried to look at like some of the kind of overall views and visions for the game. So I asked him a bit about what they're currently doing with the game and whether it's gearing up for the next expansion. But it seems like basically his answer was they're trying to make the most complete game they can now. And it's not so much about preparing for the expansion. So I think the expansion is kind of something that's happening a little bit separately. But some cool little tidbits came out of that interview. And for those of you guys watching on my channel, I'll link it in the description below if you want to check that out, if you haven't checked it out already.
I'll link the video as well. So guys, at the end of the video, you'll see like click on this video, and you really should. You should watch the whole interview because, as he's mentioning, because I will say it because he won't be able to. It was not like a journalist interview where these guys are like, okay, so what's the new feature? But you see them playing the game, they don't know what to do. Like Ziggy, my friend, has been playing the game for a while, so he really asked the questions that actually had carried weight, and I think that's what was the best part. Really, because it's not just me, because the Reddit comments were also saying the same thing, that hey, the questions were pretty good even. So I'll link that in the chat. But anyways, we'll move on from this. What was your favorite part of the BlizzCon? Like just anything that you enjoyed. Obviously the experience was amazing, but like one big thing when you went there, did you like anything cool there, or also did you meet any fans there by any chance? Anyone that recognized you apart from the?
I did meet a few fans there. I think I probably met like, I don't know, like 10 separate different fans, and I went and had some drinks with some as well. That was pretty awesome, because that doesn't happen here in Australia, because Australia's such a big place, and a lot of my fans are US based or EU based, so actually being in the US and having a chance to hang out with some fans was awesome. But I think probably the biggest thing for BlizzCon for me was the Overwatch announcement. I mean, it seems kind of obvious, but just like the crowd's responses to that, and just like the craziness of their first new IP announcement in 17 years was insane. So, but I did really like, as I said, the White Shang interview was also a pretty big highlight for me as well. And yeah, I think just overall it was a pretty mind-blowing sort of thing. I just got a real sense of like the whole community's passion there, and even though, as I said, Diablo took a bit of a back seat in terms of announcements and stuff, the panels that they did do there, sitting there and getting the community's kind of responses to that, and just being able to see all the Diablo fans in one place was pretty exciting.
Amazing. Did you get a chance to play like the new levels or something, Ruins of Secheron?
I actually did not. No, I had very little time to actually play anything. It was pretty difficult to balance the kind of like recording content and doing interviews and getting around and also experiencing the show. So Diablo was one I missed out on, but I did get a hands-on with a few other things. But yeah, not Diablo.
But one thing you did play, and I really want your opinion on this one, right? Because you're a pro Demon Hunter, and I've been dying to like talk to someone who plays Demon Hunter class, and like the big part of it. But basically, Season 1 came and went, right? What were your thoughts on it? I know you make awesome Path of Exile videos. That's something you do. So for a guy who knows how the whole ladder / the season things work in a different game, it being launched into Diablo 3 and the way it played out in Season 1. Any thoughts on that? Like basically, like how did you feel about seasons being introduced into the game?
Yeah, as you've said, like Path of Exile's had seasons for a while, and Diablo 2 obviously had seasons. I've had a fair bit of seasonal play experience. And I have to say, unfortunately, I think Season 1 was a bit of a letdown overall for Diablo. I think the biggest thing for me, I guess from a personal standpoint, the biggest thing for me when a new season happens is that race to max level, those first couple days, that really intense competitive first couple days. Like in those in Diablo 2, it was always a thing. In Path of Exile, it's a really big thing, getting to endgame first, getting those really good items and starting to trade and stuff like that. But from the Diablo 3 perspective, I think it was that initial sort of leveling experience was overshadowed by just kind of the sheer amount of problems with the game at that point in terms of season, like the competition problems. So kind of, for example, various different leveling exploits and things like that people were using. It just took away a lot of the thrill for me, and I got the character max level, but beyond that, I lost interest in the season from that point. I think it just didn't do enough, and then just that whole host of problems, I think, kind of killed the buzz.
Right, like from what I understand in terms of seasons, right? So you and I, we're playing Diablo, we're farming for loot. Rarely would we go to a random road to Alcarnus in Act 2 or whatever and explore it, right? Because you're busy farming that loot and you're enjoying the farming experience. So when season comes in and you have to level your character up, you start the whole game again. You want to just play it from the start to the end and level up as fast as you can, not to, go for, hey, I'm going to go to this area and I'm going to exploit it, do it again and again until I reach, the top, like the top ladder or something. That obviously is part of seasons, you have to be on the top. But as Ziggy said, right, I definitely agree that if there are some exploits in the game where people are doing some nasty things, some people are kind of, they say that, hey, I was forced to do this because this guy was doing this and I'm competitive, I want to catch up. And the other people are like, I don't want to do this, and if that's the way to go on top of the ladder, then I'm not going to try it at all. But I think there's a second point to it as well, Ziggy. I don't know what your opinions are. It's the legendaries, right? So for me, I'm not a seasons guy. I didn't, it's not the biggest part of me. I like to make builds and all. So for me, I was looking forward to some new legendaries that were being added into the game, right? Now, each class had one or two, but I wasn't really... Personally, I was really impressed by them. They weren't anything game changer or even game altering, as you use them and you can try a different build. To me, they were like, okay, it has a cool ability for the first 5 seconds and then I'm bored already. So what do you think about that? Was that another reason why seasons were like, maybe they were not where they should have been, is the legendaries, they were not exciting enough?
I usually take the stance that I'm not really fussed on the rewards for these sorts of things. Like if they put like a race in the game or something like that, or a season in the game, it's more for me about the actual experience of it. But I do think from reading the community's reactions that overall the legendaries were not really much of a motivator, because there's definitely a big section of the community that is motivated by these rewards, and maybe something like an interesting new set that enabled a new type of endgame Torment 6 build would have been a big motivator. Undeniably, that would have gotten a lot more people playing seasons. So I do think that was there. For me, it wasn't really a big deal because, as I said, I don't really kind of... The motivation makes almost no difference in terms of whether I play a season or not. Those extra items that you obtain, to me, it's more about the actual experience of the season itself. So I'm talking like that competitive leveling experience, which, just for the record, they have improved a lot of those things that were problems back then. So hopefully Season 2 is going to be better and more competitive. Looking forward to that. But also new game mechanics that change the way the season plays out. This is something that wasn't really done in Diablo 2, and yeah, Diablo 2 did well with its seasons without needing that, but that was a long time ago, and I do think that now maybe seasons could incorporate some bigger mechanics changes, something that changed the gameplay at a more fundamental level, and made it a bit more interesting and different and epic to play, something different to the core game experience.
All right, so basically like a different event or something, anything that could take your mind off the mundane thing, as in if a season comes in, it's something like a thing to celebrate, right? It's something to get excited about, rather than, hey, season's coming, I'm going to get half of my friends list, pushed into that side, and it's going to mean that less people are going to play Diablo. I think, for me, that's what, I saw happening in Season 1. And as Mr. Ziggy said, right, the first part of him, he does not care about rewards. That's one part of the community. The other part of the community, which is guys like me, who want to see a reward as in something that changes your gameplay, that didn't happen. So basically the both spectrum, if you will, were not getting what they wanted. And Season 1, even though it was an amazing thing, because you have to understand, it's something that it's the first time they introduced to Diablo 3. even though it was like a good thing to add, but it wasn't there. So season one came and went. I got my character to like 70, and then I got, I think, at another 40 Paragon levels. I found my Vengeful Wind, the fist weapon for Monk, and I'm like, okay, it's GG time for me. And I just sat out of the season. But that being said, I have seen, like, in my friend list, in my clan, I've seen so many people playing the game.
Yeah,
Being
I think
part of the
I
season.
think overall seasons are an improvement to the game. It's great that they were added overall. I think something Wyatt Chang said in the interview I had with him was that rifts are an opportunity for them to try new things, and without it affecting the core game, without it being impactful for the core game. I would like to see them take that same mindset that they already have towards rifts, expand upon it not only in rifts. Firstly, I'd like to see them do more crazy things in rifts, but also in seasons. Seasons are an opportune testing ground for them to try core game changes, like change and add extra things to the game within the season, and then they can remove it if it doesn't work well in the core game. They don't have to roll it into the core game, or if it does work well, it's a chance to roll a feature over into the core game.
Yeah, sounds pretty amazing. It'll make something that you really want to, again, making seasons celebrative. You want to play it because it's the cool thing to do, right? So if they do some exclusive rewards to season, that's pretty good as well. And as you said, they have taken steps towards it. They're doing it, but I think season one to me was like a test phase. They get, hey, let's give it a go, see how it, how people, how community like it or not, and then we'll take it from there. So season one for me was good. It's a good addition, but a lot could have be done. But that being said, season two is coming out, and that should be pretty amazing. So any thoughts on that, Ziggy? Because you did see like the whole Blizzcon, and they did talk about season two there. Anything that you're excited about for season two, because it will be coming pretty soon?
Yeah, I think the best thing for season two is that they are kind of redesigning the idea behind conquests and moving them away even further from like leveling and things like that, and moving them more towards kind of extra game challenges that you wouldn't normally be doing. So, for example, the one of the new conquests I talked with Wyatt about was the getting 50 million gold streak. That takes concerted effort and planning to do something like that. It's not something you're just going to do accidentally, like getting a level. Like it's not just something you would be doing anyway. Getting more Paragon levels. So they said from the beginning they didn't want to do that, but they still kind of had conquests that centered around the core gameplay that is Diablo and what people were already doing outside of seasons. But this is stuff that's extra things people can try and do in seasons, and it's also things that people can just gear for and plan for and then do, and then they don't do it anymore. It's not like not a repeated thing. I like this, so I like this sort of the addition of these conquests. So I think this is a good direction for future seasons to continue trying to add extra things like this. And in the future, I'd like to see them take it even further and add gameplay elements that tie in with the new conquest. So what about a new season 3 comes out and they say there's 5 new conquests in season 3, and each of those new conquests actually has like a new map or event or something tied with it. That obviously that's a bit of extra design work for them, but I think the game warrants it. I think the game deserves it.
Yeah, right. And now we're thinking, hey, the extra like level design or something, or something too like I don't know, strange, like adding a new level. Earlier, half a year ago, we'd be like, nah, Blizz is never going to do that. But now we actually see Ruins of Sescheron is a great example that they are willing to add more content.
And that's completely new content too. I asked Wyatt if that was something like left over from development. He said that was designed from scratch, from the ground up. So if they're willing to design a completely new zone, and that was not going to be in the game either way, then I think they could potentially be willing to do that to make seasons a little bit more interesting as well.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. And one last thing, though, what do you think about the duration of the season? Like, people have been arguing over this over the forums for quite a long time. They ask me, like, what do you think is a fair length for the season? So since you played Path of Exile, a game that plays, in most parts, like, it's the same kind of loot find game and monster crushing game, pretty much similar ideas. How long do you think a season should be, like a race to the top, if you will?
It's a very difficult thing to answer, because even Path of Exile is struggling with that quite a bit as well. They had 4-month seasons, and people complained that the last month of the season was dead, so they reduced it to 3-month seasons, and the last month of the season was dead. I think this is something where no matter what length you put in, unless you could just get like stupidly small, no matter what length you put in, people are there's going to be a lull time. It's going to be too long for someone. It's going to be the last section, whatever month -1 will be a dead period for the game. So I don't know. I do feel like these are probably too long. I'm wondering if I'm just falling into that trap though, but I do think maybe a little bit too long, especially given that there wasn't enough late game changes in the season to make it significantly different to the core game for with it being that long. Yeah. And especially with how short the initial game, like the leveling period and everything was, with everyone kind of exploiting in that. And just with the game itself being quite quick to level, that initial couple excitement of the first few days and gearing up happens very, very quickly. So maybe making them shorter in line with that would be a good idea.
See, that's what I saw too, right? Like, first day, the first few, like 12, 13 hours of the season, everyone's rushing. And it's really, you see the chat, because the way I judge if something's successful, I've always seen that in Diablo, is to look at the game chat. That's my little secret, guys, you know. I would open up the general chat of the window and I'll see how often people are interacting. Something weird I like to do. But since we have clans now, you know, I was looking at, everyone was online, 150 slots in a clan. I think 130 people were roughly online that day. And for the first 12 hours, it was a frenzy, and it was a good kind of frenzy. Everyone's talking to each other, everyone's making fun of each other. Hey, look what I found, you didn't find this. They're all racing to 70, and you see them slowly pushing out. But in the next week or so, someone's like Paragon 100 or Paragon 200, and the other guy basically found better loot in that time, whatever span at the time. So what happens is the person who's at Paragon 200 would maybe get bored. Hey, I'm not getting enough rewards or something. I don't think I want to play seasons anymore because I have a non-seasonal character which is just sitting out and doing nothing. Whereas the other guy, since he got good loot, he jumps off even further in Paragon levels, and that might have demotivated some people. Now, I know there's no solution to it because, as I said, season cannot offer whatever you want from it. It's a way to start new. You can have the same leveling up experience again with the community. You can even find your loot again, and you can even be, if you want to be like Mr. Ziggy, aspire for the best and the top of the leaderboard. So what I saw basically at the end of the month of the season was I had a couple of my friends in the clan who were Paragon 600. I'm not joking, guys. That's how much they were in seasons. And then there were other people who were Paragon 200 who had just stopped playing the season because, they didn't like it. But for the most part, almost everyone in the clan participated in season. For a guy like me, I was like, no, I don't want to play seasons because there's nothing for me to find. Even I leveled up to 70 and played till Paragon 40, which is not a lot of time, but if you think about it, it fulfilled the purpose that I was looking after. I was after a legendary for a monk, and that's what I wanted to try, and I got to try that. So seasons do offer something for everyone, but I think that's where, to me, the balance should be. And it's so tricky, right? Because we're just talking about the change, and we're not game developers. But as Ziggy said, the time span, people would find that, hey, 4 months is too long, 3 months is too long. But on the other flip side of things, Blizzard also has to design new content for a season because they can make seasons 1 month long or 15 days, for instance. But Season 3, for instance, won't be any different from Season 4. It's just going to be like, hey, okay, the season's over. By the way, we've got another season coming up. What's in the new season? Nothing at all, really. So they need that time to develop new things, and that's really kind of tricky because, at developmental stage, I understand a bit of programming myself. It's not the easiest thing to do. So a tricky question, I understand. To me, if I want to give a random number, maybe 2 months, 3 months. I'd say 3 months, yeah. Let's go with a number. Is okay-ish for me. But then again, that's just me being me. So hard question to answer, but hey, we kind of answered it anyway. So there's that.
Yeah, I think with the current implementation of seasons, where the core gameplay doesn't change too much, shorter is better. But if they want to develop some more interesting gameplay changes and new mechanics and stuff to the seasons, then having longer seasons, like 4-month season plus, would not be too big a deal because that would give them extra development cycle time to work on the next season's content. And it would also be different from the core game, and people would be more interested in playing it for longer. So. I think it could be longer if they do start to implement some different things.
Nice. So speaking of new changes, it's been a while since we last chatted about this, but I'm wondering, what are your opinions on rifts and greater rifts and these kind of features in the game, right? Like, to me, they're the coolest thing ever. And whilst everyone was doing seasons and doing the same thing there, I was doing greater rifts and rifts. What do you think about this cool idea of rifts, right? Because that's something we've always asked for. And they finally delivered it. And I think it's just so much more fun, than normally going to, Act 1, going to Festering Woods and farming there. Now you actually have a place where you can go with your friends. And not only can you, just speed clear it and see the kind of loot you get, but you can also compete with other people on leaderboards. So what do you think about that, Ziggy? That's another cool thing, right?
Obviously, adventure mode overall was a monumental improvement to the experience of farming in Diablo 3. And it added something that I always think is a really big deal, is an opportunity to see all of the awesome content the developers have made. I hate when you have this awesome boss in Act 1, but there's no point ever farming it again. So this brings that back. But I think greater rifts are probably the more important topic now, because what they add to the game is something the game didn't previously had, and that is challenge. Like, let's face it, Diablo 3 is not a difficult game. It's not a challenging game. With the ability to set your own difficulty, and with level scaling now especially, the game is very easy to play at a very comfortable difficulty, and just gear up efficiently through that. It's fun to play, but it's not difficult. But what Greater Rifts add is a scaling challenge. It adds back that sort of old school scalings challenge, and it also adds a kind of a layer of competition on top of that. So I think that's exactly what the game needed, and I'd like to see them expand upon that idea even further. This is something I tried to probe Wyatt for as well, was whether they plan on adding more challenges, and he said that is something they're looking into, is other ways to expand and add challenge to the game, because I think now Diablo 3 is a very good game at the fundamental level. It's exceptionally fun to play. I think the loot system overall is pretty solid now, and I think the loot hunt is very satisfying now, but that's the biggest thing that is missing from the game for me right now, and the reason I don't play endlessly. I keep coming back to the game because the game's at its core is so good, but because it's missing overall that kind of like challenge, that's what doesn't keep me around. So Greater Rifts were a great improvement to that, because although you could do Torment 6 just fine, and you can set your difficulty, or you could do Torment 4 because that's where you can farm out efficiently. When it comes to Greater Rifts, every time you get further into Greater Rift, it gets more difficult, and it gets more difficult, and to the point where you have to start playing really well. You have to start using your skills correctly. You have to actually be good at your character. You have to actually be good at using your skills. Not only do you have to have good gear, you have to have well put together and intelligently designed gear set, and then also intelligent use of those skills. And I think that's a fantastic thing for the game overall, but it is underutilized right now. I think it's an idea that they would need to expand upon in the future.
I think I might have a little thing to add on to that, mate. Is definitely, it's the Greater Rift is basically your new testing battleground, right? If you think you're good enough for the game, earlier Diablo used to be, for me, was a game you'd lie back on your couch. If you were on a console, you play with your controller, or even lie back on your chair and enjoy, have a chat with your friends, play the game, and it'll be fun, right? It'll be like a so-called social experience. You can still do that, but now you can be the sweaty tryhard you've always wanted to be, by playing Greater Rifts. That's what I call it. So it's a great addition to the game with that regard. But since I think one thing, as Ziggy said, it's a great addition. There's a lot to be desired, and I think partly for me the problem was, and I think most people did feel it. Now everyone has a favorite class. You play this, I play that. I think all classes were not so equal on the same footing when it came to the Greater Rifts. And again, that's Season 1, that's where things started. And partly why Season 1 did whatever it wanted to do, and partly because, Greater Rifts need an improvement. To me, it's not the whole reason, but I do think that the way the classes played in Seasons and Greater Rifts was the big underlying factor. Because if you're a Demon Hunter, for instance, you could go up to the highest level of Greater Rifts. You can even go up to 50. Same thing for a Barbarian later on. But if you're a humble monk like myself, Greater Rift 32 was a place you would sit on, and that's where things would get nasty for you. So any thoughts on that, Ziggy? Because you played Demon Hunter from way back in the days. You were the first guy who knew how Demon Hunter was played. The kiting aspect of the game. You would shoot, you would vault away, you would fire a cluster arrow. And when I watch your streams, basically you're still doing that because you have the old, the skills in a way. But now Demon Hunters were in Season 1, where you drop your sentry, you look at your watch, you make a sandwich, and you're still shooting and things are on the screen, which is awesome, don't get me wrong. Killing monsters is always amazing, but that did bring up a big problem, and that was, hey, this class is farming well, that's okay, because it's supposed to perform that way. But why can't the other class compete? So class balance is what basically I'm getting onto right now. And what do you think about that?
I think that previously in the game, class balance was a non-issue, and there was nothing really highlighting it all that much, because everyone could do Torment 6 with the endgame set. Everyone could do Torment 6 just fine. But Greater Rifts obviously create a competitive sort of environment, and also create a quantitative sort of measurement of your character. So my character can reach Greater Rift 40. Whereas your character can only reach Greater Rift 30, and it's obviously my character is better than yours. So that adding into the game makes, in people's mind, again, class balance an issue. So I guess there's nothing really else to say about that. It's probably to the desire of the community to improve class balance. I don't really have much personal
Exactly.
feelings on class balance. I like to, when I
It's a
compete, I
vicious
generally
cycle, isn't it?
compete class versus class. Like,
Hmm.
I don't look at my demon hunter and say it's not as good as a barb. I just go, how's my demon hunter compared to other demon hunters, or how well am I
Is it
going
fun?
compared to me? Yeah.
Basically, yeah, I agree. It's a vicious circle because the more you add into the game, the more problem, the new problems arise, and then you have to figure them out. But all in all, season one to me was something good. The whole Greater Rift part was amazing. I enjoyed the challenge. But then, the whole season two is being announced, and the other thing which I think we kind of should move on to now would be because I did see you like sneakily logging into the PTR. So you have given it a little swing, haven't you? You've given it a go, and
Yeah,
PTR is patch
I've put in
2.12.
quite a few hours to the PTR now. I'd kind of like to start off with, I guess, the rift change. Since we're talking about rifts, there's
Yes,
some rift changes that are pretty important on the PTR right now. They kind of went over these at BlizzCon, but now we've had a chance to actually test them out. Density changes, changes to pylons, and layout changes are probably the biggest thing. Although I think they rebalanced Rift Guardians as well, but didn't really kind of take too much notice of that because I was too busy with the new Marauder set stomping the Rift Guardians before they did anything. But yeah, the first one was density. The density changes. Have you had a chance to play around on the PTR at all?
Oh yeah, yeah. I played a lot with my monk. Like I was smiling from ear to ear when I logged into PTR, and I had a build in mind. This is me being a horrible person, thinking, "Hey guys, I told you so." But I did come up with a build, and I had an idea. Made a video a few days ago before the patch came by that guys, this is going to be the thing for monks in patch 2.12. I tried it out, and it was true. So
Awesome,
yeah,
congrats,
I've been
man.
enjoying Great Rift. But
So
yeah, yeah, I understand.
density was the first big change. Did you notice much density improvement on the PTR?
Oh, absolutely, right. Now, I've seen a video. I don't know if you've seen it, mate. It was a nice guy on Reddit posted it, and he had like a song, "I'll walk 1,000 miles and I'll do that." Basically, the video was a guy walking from point A to point B after dying. The map was long, and he was telling that there were no monsters in the rift at all. That used to be the Greater Rift, right? I used to call it the rule of three back in the days, where some rift would be dense and they'd have good monsters. You might even get Act 1 zombies and you will be a happy man because you easily clear it. And the other side of it would be that you would get rule of three, which is you find packs of three monsters scattered around the rift, and that's all you would get and you would be wasting time. But now, density, wow, it reminds me of what was the patch? 1.0.7 was it when you were farming Act 1 back in the days? The density is amazing, right? You find so many monsters to kill, and the game to me has always been, you kill more monsters, it becomes more fun. And yeah, I logged into PTR. I started a Greater Rift, and my monk jumped to Greater Rift 37 instantly because partly because the character was balanced, but more importantly, the density was so good that I didn't have to pray to the RNG gods that hey, give me a good rift. The monsters are equally balanced. You might get a nasty lot in the beginning, but the whole span of the rift, it's pretty good. There are lots of them there, and they're kind of all different types of monsters, all put into one big rift. And I've felt consistency. That's something that was lacking in Greater Rift. So definitely, mate. Yeah.
Okay, so I think the biggest point for me on the density is that the consistency is improved. I'm kind of surprised about how much the density is increased, and this seems kind of counter to some of their design decisions earlier, which was to make less mobs but more challenging mobs. So I feel like maybe they've gone a little bit overboard. Potentially, people are going to hate me for that because people love more density. People want to see rooms packed full of monsters, but it kind of that takes away a lot of your interesting decision making and gameplay and tactical combat from Diablo, which is like one of the biggest things about Reaper of Souls for me and patch 2.0 was that combat became a much more tactical. So I don't know, maybe they've gone a little bit overboard on the density, but the consistency is undeniably way better, and that was the most important thing. I think the competition on Greater Rifts should come from the challenge. RNG should be in the form of the difficulty of mobs and affixes that they spawn with, rather than whether you get a rift that doesn't have any monsters in it or not.
That's such a great point. That is such a big point, right? Because earlier, if you had the same gear, mate, you basically, again, had to pray to the RNG gods to get a good rift, because finishing a Greater Rift 40 and finishing a Greater Rift 45, maybe your character can do 45, but if you get something like those Act 4 monsters with mallets and all, and they had the 75% shield blocking or something, good luck to you. It's not going to happen. So it was all RNG based to me earlier, but now it's just so good that everyone has a fighting chance, RNG is still there. The monsters will be mixed in and it'll be jumbled in. You might get a nasty lot in the beginning or somewhere in the middle, but overall it's good. And the other thing I should ask you now is, mate, about the pylons. So earlier, maybe you'll get a pylon, maybe you'll get none at all. Maybe there'll be 7 rifts until you get a pylon. But now, what do you think about pylons in PTR?
Yeah, I'm really happy with this change overall because obviously before it was, conduit pylon or bust. Basically, it was that was pretty much it. But now, speed pylons, shield pylons are pretty good, but I think speed pylons are like my favorite now. They're so good. The speed and the duration of them, and knocking monsters back, and the fact that you can break walls as well doesn't come up often. But when you do have that wall pack with the speed pylon, it's so satisfying just walking straight through them. So I think speed pylons is like. Yeah, overall, I love the pylon changes. I think the design mentality behind this as well, when the entire community was saying, nerf conduit pylons, just remove pylons from greater rifts in general. Wow, you guys are boring. Why are you asking for that? I'm really happy that the PoE devs... What? Whoa, PoE devs? Wow, too much things on podcasting. Wow. The Blizzard devs were just like... we're just like, no, let's make them all good. Let's make them all fun, and I think that's awesome. So I'm happy that made it through, and I think it's been done pretty well.
I've spent like so much time. I don't even know when you start a PTI and you find a speed pylon. I don't even like conduit anymore. I just run through people as a monk, put Serenity on, and I just knock them around. It doesn't do damage, but hey, it just basically is me being sadistic. I'm like, you made me suffer all that time back in the patch. I would die because you'd surround me, and now I can push you away. But yeah, pylons are good. But the other thing I've also seen is the number of pylons you encounter. I think for me, and again, this is just a random number I'm generating, but it's almost always consistent in every rift. To me, I call it like roughly around 3 to 4. In every rift, that's how many pylons you will encounter before you meet the final Rift Guardian, and that's pretty good.
They tightened the ranges on those, they did. I think they said it was, you should encounter 2 to 4 pylons now, compared to 0 to 6 was the range before, much wider, and the potential for none as well. So you're always going to get, I think it's a guaranteed 2 now, and maximum of 4, so much more consistent.
Oh, nice, okay. That's good. I think we should talk about another biggie that I have been holding on back. So we've talked about Greater Rifts and, how the gameplay is and all. I want to add something that you get in Greater Rifts when you kill the Guardian, and those are the legendary items, right? And not just any legendary, mate, the ancient items. Have you had a chance to look at those beauties, by the way?
So, the topic of ancient items, oh man. Okay, so ancient items are a band-aid fix. Now, that's not a bad thing, but whenever you say the word band-aid, people are like, wow, that's the worst thing in the world, like a band-aid fix on a game. It's just a band-aid fix. That sounds like, such a negative thing, but band-aids are good, guys. Band-aids stop you from bleeding out to death. So the Ancient Legendary Edition is quite obvious. It's quite simple. It's a very, very simple addition of an extra tier of loot to go for, and it just gives people something to do until something else happens in the game. And that's not a bad thing at all. I think it's a good thing, and I think it was a good idea that they added these Ancient Legendaries. Now, obviously, you're going to be pretty pissed if you got that 0.01% drop legendary that you needed, and now it was, especially if it was a weapon, and now any ancient legendary weapon is basically better than that particular weapon. I mean, that sucks, but you have new stuff to farm for, and after all, that's pretty much all we have in Diablo is that farming for that loot. So I think it's fine. They maybe could have done something a little bit more interesting than just making stats 30% stronger, but like maybe added an extra effect or added some extra kind of interesting RNG on there where one stat was much stronger and then the other ones were still the same. So maybe Ancient Legendaries had, their thing was that they had one superb stat, like, and then maybe that would add kind of like an interesting sort of extra collection point to it. But as it is now, it's a nice little band-aid to give us something extra to do. I do think they should change the boxes of them though. Like when you're looking at them in your inventory, you can't tell they're ancient until you mouse over them. It's annoying.
No, you really can't. And some of them, I think they're bugged right now as well. You can't even, like, they are ancient ones and you can't tell.
Crafting ones, I think, are bugged.
Yeah, the crafting ones. And even their, I think, rolls as well. So normally ancients are up to, I think, they give you 250 of the max, like, roll that you can have. For instance, your gloves would have 750 main stat as the highest, but now they can go up to 1000, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's the way it is. But the craftable ones, I was crafting Captain Crimson's set, and the highest they can go for is 650, I think. And every single craftable legendary is actually an ancient item. That's another bug what I've seen. So that's, guys, if you haven't abused it yet, go for it, because it's only PTR. So I've crafted my Captain Crimson. But to get back on the point, right, of ancient item, they are definitely a band-aid fix, but it's something. you know, every time when you play the game at the core of it is a farming game, right? It's the loot game. It's the loot game that designed the whole, you know, system of, you know, you going RNG based items to find in the game. I mean, Diablo is what made this, and you still have it in the game. So for if you're a guy who like me who spent thousands of hours into the game and your character is maxed out, then there's another way for you to, you know, move forward, and it's pretty good. So your other items are good, but it's your weapons as well is something that you really, really want to farm, because that, again, if you're after leaderboards, if you're after something like that, they did give us an example. I will give you an example right now. So if you have the best Maximus, for instance, right now in your hand, it's doing something like 3,700% weapon, 3,750, for instance, damage to you in your hand. And it's all good. You've got a Ramalandi's gift in it, and it's really shiny and nice and all. But if you get an ancient item, this number could be 30% better. So imagine that your weapon damage, your skills are hitting 30% harder. So for a guy who's after the laurels of the leaderboard, that's something you really want. And then you can imagine these stats being added on to all single item slots of the 13 items that you wear, and you get more of your main stat and more of vitality. Not only do you become tankier, you become, you know, you do more damage. And isn't that everything about, guys? Well, it shouldn't be, but, you know, we love big numbers and damage on screen. So it's definitely a band-aid fix. I agree with that. And it's also kind of indicating how the stat numbers will progress in the future, because, you know, the next so-called expansion, which I'm not going to talk about right now, you know, you can see how the numbers are progressing and how the damage will scale. But yeah, definitely a cool thing to look for if you have completely maxed out character right now. So
now, to
everyone
play
has
devil's advocate on that a bit, on the other hand, I kind of do think that just making higher numbers is you know, potentially a negative thing for the game, like just having kind of like, you know, constantly growing numbers. And I mean, we see that whenever the level cap is raised, all your previous gear becomes useless, and that sort of thing can be a little bit sad. So I can definitely understand if anyone has any kind of negative feelings towards ancient legendaries, because essentially they do just, you know, increase numbers by 30%. However, in the current game, I guess to counter my own counterpoint, in the current game, we have the Greater Rift system, which is kind of like this, you know, infinitely scaling system that gets more and more difficult. And although Torment 6 only goes to a certain point, and then it stops, that's its maximum difficulty it reaches, the game extends beyond that. So the ancient legendaries are kind of like this like extra game thing, like this beyond the core game, and it's basically just to get higher in those greater rifts. That's like, I think, the only purpose of them, because obviously with all non-ancient legendaries of your, you know, your end game set, you can easily do Torment 6. So you can easily do everything in the core game without any ancient legendaries. The ancient legendaries are more just a way to scale further into greater rifts and to provide some extra competition and things to go for that.
Yeah, basically to keep the leaderboards moving, you know, it's something that, hey, if I'm on the top, I have to be careful, because my friend Ziggy, if I log out for one day, you know, he's going to beat me by doing that. So yeah, I think it's just giving the game a little bit more of a breath of fresh air. It's giving it that little extra time, you know, for people to keep playing it, keep enjoying it more until the next big thing comes into the game.
I do think a better way of doing it is to do what they're doing a little bit of already and add different items and add different build enabling items. Like they have announced, and I guess this kind of transitions into the next topic, some extra sets coming in the future. I don't think these are coming in 2.1.2. I think they're coming after that, but they did at BlizzCon show some of the sets. So the Demon Hunter set they added was Unhallowed Essence, which has 3 different set bonuses with it, like the rest of them. Your generators generate 2 additional discipline. Well, they generate 2 discipline. The 4 set bonuses, you gain 40% damage reduction if an enemy is like close to you, within 20 yards of you. And then the 6 set bonuses, your generators and multi-shot deal 10% increased damage for every point of discipline you have. So this is something like 400%. Extra damage on your multi-shot potentially with max discipline, and it's pretty easy to increase your max discipline a little bit more as well. So this is something they're starting to do a bit of, and I think this sort of addition is way more interesting than Ancient Legendaries, adding alternative builds. The thing is, from a development perspective, I can certainly understand that this takes a lot more time and money to develop something like this than it takes to develop Ancient Legendaries, which is basically just scaling up the stats by 30%. Yeah. So I have to say, though, I guess obviously the transitioning point was this is a more interesting way of increasing and lengthening the loot hunt in Diablo, and I would like to see this happen a bit more, because it gives us extra things to hunt for. It doesn't make the rest of our gear useless. It just gives us alternative builds to play. So I would definitely like to see more of that. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Definitely right. Now this is something I've been thinking. I can't add much about my favorite class, but I have been playing, the PTR, and I've been seeing this thing. Right. To me, it's always been the builds. Like again, I'm biased on this one, as you know that, guys. To me, the reason why I play Diablo is the build diversity, the things you can do by tweaking those little 6 skills you have, and something magical happens on the screen, and you feel like you've done something cool because, hey, the character that couldn't kill this monster on this difficulty can now basically obliterate him. And there are two ways you can do that. First, obviously, is the build, but the most importantly, which, Diablo being a loot-based game, you finding items, is the loot you find. So the loot has to be more appealing to you, It has to be appealing, not because it looks nice or because it has a good effect, but it should also feel fun when you're playing with it, right? And that's something they've also added, right? They're adding new sets for each class. As Demon Hunter, Siggy talked about the Demon Hunter set. Actually, a set on multi-shot. I'm going to talk to you about that, by the way, because I'm sure you got a secret build for us in your mind working already. How you can use multi-shot to do things. So for me, like the class that I play now, Monk, I've seen the new Monkey King set that was redesigned, and I absolutely loved it, right? Now, that's an existing change, but change in a way that's improving the quality of the game, and it's making the whole experience more fun. Earlier, you would spam your skill. I don't know if you've seen it, my friend Ziggy. It's basically you use Flying Dragon Diablo, and you attack very, very fast. You generate lots of spirit, and you mash your buttons like the CM Wizard of the good old days, and you break your fingers, but you deal a lot of damage. That's how monks used to play in Season 1. But now they've changed this, the whole set, and they've added effects to it in a way that whenever you cast a Spirit Spender, you can summon a clone that deals damage, and the next damage that you will deal from the Spirit Spender, if it's been taunted by the clone that you summon, will take more damage. So it's basically all about the spenders, the amount of spirit you expend, not on base of how fast you can press a button, but how well you play the game and how well you're using the skill. So slowing the pace down, but actually making the gameplay more interesting. Again, it's not just about the bigger numbers, but it's about the interaction. So all of that, I think, I have seen it so far, and the new legendaries, they need to be constantly added into the game, like the way they are being added right now, to make the game, more appealing. Because I definitely agree, right? That's why I agree that it's ancient item, even though I'm kind of excited about them. To me, that's not the only thing, and I'm waiting for the new monk set to be added in the game, and I'm really curious about what it's going to be. But to give an example on the other character that I've tried is the wizard set, the Archon set, where the slow time bubble basically does some cool things. You cast it on an enemy, they take more damage, you throw something in the bubble, and it does even more damage. Such a cool idea, right? That set you can integrate with or your already verse sets to do amazing things. So gameplay changes like that, right? Which makes you use a different set, and you can still keep your existing set, and it gives you options, diversity. I think that's the spice of life for Diablo, and it's always been the case back in the days, and we were lacking that, I'll be very honest with you. When Reaper of Souls came by, all the builds I was not really a big fan of. I didn't enjoy them, but really now I'm playing the patch and I'm seeing how the new sets are being added and the current sets that are being tweaked into the game. I'm really excited about the game again. It's so much more fun that you can not only do cool things, but you can do cool things that are actually effective as well. So I'm really, really happy about that, mate. The sets are definitely changing legendaries is the way to go forward.
Yeah, this is I think the biggest and most exciting thing for the game, that they are adding these things and that they're not a part of an expansion pack, that they're just starting to add. They just recognize the need for and are starting to value adding more interesting build-defining items. And this means that, so firstly, I guess there's two changes here that get me really excited about the game again. Is Demon Hunter endgame changing, so changing the Marauder set and how it plays to make it more active is fantastic. That's like one of the biggest things that kind of killed the game experience for me, was that my endgame set for my favorite character was a very passive playstyle, played like a Witch Doctor. I don't like playing Witch Doctor, I want to play Demon Hunter. So that change was awesome. And then adding further alternatives as well that should hopefully be Torment 6 viable and then some, is a very exciting concept for me. So it's probably, this is like the biggest and most exciting thing for the game, I think, change-wise, is that they are looking to add these extra, essentially they're adding extra builds to the game. They're not actually adding extra items, they're adding extra builds to the game, and that's exciting.
Definitely. I mean, to me, that's what adds diversity. That's what makes you come back. Hey, I've got this set now. Maybe I want to try this out and see how the gameplay is. So yeah, it adds time to the game. It's something that you actually want to invest your time in and enjoy the whole experience. So definitely, right, new sets and even new legendaries, right? That's the way to go forward. And yeah, but just a little side thing that I think we have missed, and I think it's going to be your favorite thing too. sometimes the changes are big, right? As we've talked about, we've discussed so many of them already. Greater Rift changes, the way the classes are being rebalanced and the way sets are acting. But little things like the little scuttling creatures you see running around here and there, they've also been doing something amazing to it, right? I'm talking about treasure goblins, guys. They have added some awesome things to them, right? There are three different kinds, and apparently there's a secret one as well. I don't know. He's called
There's actually 5 new goblins.
Oh, really? Please do enlighten us, because
Okay.
yeah, this is news. Okay.
So they announced
What are
3 at BlizzCon, which was the Blood Shard Goblin, the Crafting Material and Plan Goblin, and the Gem Goblin. So they showed off each of those. And they're all really cool. I especially love the Blood Shard Goblin because they put the lore in the background that he steals the blood shards off Kadala, which Kadala get wrecked. I love that. So there's also a Rainbow Goblin, which allows you to go to Whimsyshire, and I spoke to one of the devs about that, and they said that actually it wasn't. I don't think it was one of the devs. It was someone managing the Blizzard Twitter. But they said that it was so that people would just happen across Whimsyshire in their regular gameplay, because currently it's a piece of content that you only experience if you go well out of your way to experience it. So they wanted to add that in as a rare but random occurrence. So you'll now randomly kind of find your way in Whimsyshire. And then the other one is this kind of like little evil little bugger that teleports around, and he drops like extra loot. I can't remember what he's called. It's got kind of like Malevolent. That's the one. Yeah, I think it's Malevolent. I think you're right. Yeah. And yeah, he's another rare spawn. Though I have seen people having rifts full of them, so it is possible. And those guys drop tons of extra loot, just regular loot, but lots of it.
Oh wow! Okay, no, I saw a picture on Reddit which was full of like the screen. Maybe they didn't cheat or anything. The whole screen was just full of stars, and the green stars and the red stars. Really, it was beautiful. They killed like a big pack of these guys. So yeah, I think they just have a higher chance to drop legendaries. I don't know. Maybe it didn't happen for you, but still a pretty cool thing, huh? So 5 different goblins. That is pretty amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's a neat idea. They said it was because the goblins themselves were boring and no one cares about them, and that was true. The goblins before were boring. They were barely worth killing. So yeah, no, it's good to make that little part of the game interesting. Not a big thing, but just a nice little improvement, I think.
Awesome. And obviously we've had the Goblin Realm, which I bet you've been to a couple of times to kill the big Goblin Guardian.
Yeah, pretty hilarious. The design of her is vomit-inducing.
That's the most favorite thing for me ever, right? The first time I saw the guy, like the sadist in me, when the guy died, I'll keep clicking the chest. Oh my god, that's my like guilty pleasure, if you will. Like, go to the secret level, get all the gold, get the loot, and then the guy's there. Oh wow, I'm weird. But anyways, the goblins are really fun, guys. That's again a little thing that you add to the game. And if you think about it, right, even if you're like, the way you can get blood shards is by doing a rift or a greater rift. But what if you're actually doing a bounty? You're doing normally bounty runs, trying to get some keystones going. You find goblins there as well, right? So they can also drop you some blood shards and other things. So it's just they're adding more interactable things to the game that you actually want to look out for. Same thing goes for the Rainbow Goblin, right? That takes you to Ponyland. Earlier you wouldn't go there. Maybe you're still lacking, you're like me, you still don't have the Horadric Hamburger or the Spectrum. You want that transmog really bad. So how to go for it? Either you keep going to Act 1, leave, quit, whatever the game, or just basically play the game normally, and if the guy comes you go there, and it's just different things that they're adding, new things that they're adding that kind of work pretty well with the old system. So that's that as well. And the final thing I think we've got to cover in this, we're pretty much done with the whole Blizzcon section here now, is the legendary gems, right? They added some of that stuff back in the days. But before we get into that, I just have a starting question for you, and that is, what's your favorite gem? What's the one you've been loving as a demon hunter? Have you been using it?
It's kind of simple and not so exciting, but I love Bane of the Trapped. I love Cull the Weak, and I love rocking Bane of the Trapped as well, and rocking the Polar Station sentry turrets with the new setup on PTR is just really, really fun. Just like that, I love the idea of like stacking damage bonuses. So I have like high base damage, then I increase my base damage by this scaling, and then I also make them take more damage, which increases it even further. I love that. I love one-shotting like packs of elites and stuff. So that's my favorite. Not very exciting, but that's my favorite.
No, it works. But like I'm kind of like, I use Mironade basically for the build that I had back in the days. You had to use it, but yeah, I'm with you. It's a pretty cool gem, Bane of the Trapped. Nice one. And they've also added new ones, right? So have you had a chance to find them in the PTR? I bet you have found a couple of them.
No, I haven't found any of the new ones yet. No.
Have you not? Okay, so I found one like there's a couple of them. I think one is the non-physical damage, reduction, and the other one gives you life regen. And there's one for power leveling as well, right? That every monster you kill gives you extra experience, and that's kind of big as well. So, like again,
The
little
core of that one
quality.
is that it makes everything level 1 when you equip it into it. So you can use what it... Wasn't that... Isn't that how it works? I haven't had a chance to look at it yet, but
Oh,
that's what
I
I've
don't
heard.
know. Yeah, that could be the
I've
case.
heard
Again,
that you
that's
can put it in an item and it'll make it level 1, so you can use your level 70 weapon to level with, which I thought there's already a bunch of ways to like use groups to power level you and stuff like that. So allowing
yeah.
solo people to power level themselves, I think is it's a non-issue. So I'm happy, I'm fine to see things like that added to the game.
Mhm. Hey, cool. Yeah, so just like little quality changes. So I'm really excited about that, guys. I've been playing PTR, and so is my friend Mate Siggy here. And yeah, looking forward to the new like live version when it launches. And I hope we get a monk set. I'm crossing my fingers. So there we go.
All
So
right. So I think the final thing I kind of wanted to touch on briefly was maybe just mention how we feel about our classes. I guess moving forwards is
oh yeah.
it's obviously if you play a barb or something that we don't cover. Sorry guys, but I'm a demon hunter lover. I love my demon hunter. So we have, as I said, we have two awesome things. The Marauder set changes are fantastic, so good. People were really worried that it was going to be a nerf and that you wouldn't be able to, Demon Hunter wouldn't be competitive anymore, but as soon as I played on PTR without much effort put into refining the build, it was insane. I was just absolutely stomping. So it's essentially what's happened to Demon Hunter now is that your sentries now fire your skills when you do. However, there's a lot of extra damage bonuses on top of that, so you now do a lot more damage when you do that, and you can more quickly, thanks to this charge system, spam your turrets or your sentries down very quickly, so you can get all three of your sentries down in one burst. And that means that the Demon Hunter now plays like a Demon Hunter again. You're fast and snappy and bursty. You can be
You've
much
got
more
mercy.
mobile. Yeah, it's just so much fun, so much more fun to play. So really happy with that change overall. And I said that's one of the biggest things that kind of gets me really excited in the game again, just in playing the game again, because it makes my class just legit fun to play at endgame again. And then on top of that, they announced the new Unhallowed Essence set, which is the multi-shot set,
Oh
and
yeah.
I'm very
So come
excited
on,
for
spill
this
some
as
secrets.
well. Yeah, okay. So you mentioned before what would be my build idea for this, and
Yeah.
for me, this set just allows me to play as Donettas again. What I want to do is get my two ancient Donettas farmed up, get my Unhallowed Essence set, because the Unhallowed Essence set doesn't include any weapons. It's all armor. So you can equip that. You can even take one item out and potentially, I think you can potentially. Don't know if you can incorporate the Marauder set, but you can definitely incorporate something like your Cinder Coat or something like that in there and use the Fire multi-shot. But the biggest thing for me is using the Donetta set so I can be super fast again. So have my crazy vaulting everywhere, get in there and multi-shot. So I'm pretty excited for that set. And with the damage scaling potential on that, 400% plus
Yeah,
extra
exactly.
multi-shot damage is that's something I'm potentially pretty interested in. So. I think it could work pretty well. Hopefully, it'll be as strong as the Marauders or close to, so I can play Donetter's style again. Because that was my favorite Demon Hunter style, was playing bursty,
Just boost
super
around.
fast Vault Demon Hunter.
Yeah.
Yeah, so good. I love
Uh-huh.
Donetter's.
Great. So that's that. Awesome. Nice. Now,
What
for me, I guess I'll add, as you guys know, Monk is my favorite class. I've been playing that for a while. And yeah, from the way it was to where it is right now, the whole changes to the set, it's pretty amazing, right? Sanruko said, as I mentioned briefly earlier as well, that the gameplay was kind of mind-numbing and it was too much of a stressful experience for a monk. You were kind of a glass cannon as well, whereas now you can make quality decisions. Wave of Light, and not just wave. So initially, as I said, I talked about in the beginning, that Wave of Light is the build to go for right now. But the way the set works, they've done such an amazing job at that. Is that any Spirit Spender that you have will actually trigger the Sanruko clone. And a little secret on top of that is that whatever elemental damage that you're stacking with you, so for instance, if you have 40% fire damage, it's an example, and 20% lightning, the set will automatically recognize that 40% fire damage is the highest damage type you have, and the clone that will be summoned will be dealing fire damage. So it's so
Nice.
cool, right? It's
Yeah.
not holy damage anymore. You're not confused that, hey, should I buff my bells or should I buff my Sanruko clone? And it's just, little changes like that is pretty good. So for now, people have been playing with bell builds. That's what I've been enjoying. But the future for that, there's definitely a possibility of using Exploding Palm again. Remember, Gung Doge will also be added in Season 2. That's something, a new legendary we talked on earlier. That's another legendary that's being added and it's going to do cool things. So yeah, different skills for Monk, different spenders can all become viable thanks to the Sanvuko set. And maybe you can add something else in there. We keep our fingers crossed for the next set. Monks are pretty good, right, guys, now. And I haven't said that for a long time. I make videos and I show this is the build. They're amazing, but I clearly say this is the highest level Monk can go for. But now, to me, the essence of Monk, same thing like Demon Hunter, as Mr. Ziggy says. For him, a Demon Hunter is about the burst damage, right? For him, anything that, Demon Hunter represents the whole balance between hatred and discipline, this character that's completely out of control, and she needs her discipline to channel, keep herself contained, and then when the hatred goes up, everything dies. For Monk, it's about balance, right? It's about speed, it's about moving fast, and it's about expending the spirit, pretty much similar to a Demon Hunter, but in a controlled manner. So a Monk can finally do that right now. He can use his spenders and generators, in a perfect combination, and the gameplay is actually so much more fun. So I enjoy Monk very much. I also play a bit of Wizard, as I said, looking forward to the sets there as well. And to me, yeah, the classes are looking pretty good. At least our two favorite classes are. And if
the
you
chain reaction exploding palms look amazing, by the way. I think I was watching mods play some Monk, and
okay.
Yeah, it looks so good.
Need to try that one out, actually. Yeah. So good. So that's basically, our class views. So for the future of the class, I definitely think, from the place it was back in the days, it was amazing. As I said, Reaper of Souls, when it came out, the class kind of took a back seat for a while. But since then, it's been improving, and now it's getting where it's actually the class is much more fun and it's actually viable as well. So for me, yeah, Monks all the way. I'm still a Monk, and I've been enjoying the gameplay so far, guys. So if you haven't checked out the PTR, give it a go. And if you don't want to check it out, wait for the new patch. Then
just be prepared for a long queue time on the PTR though. 2.5 hour queues for Torment 6 at the moment. It's crazy. So popular. With that 2000% legendary buff. How do you feel about that, by the way? The 2000% legendary buff.
Oh my god. See, I think that's pretty good, actually, right? And I was talking to my friend about that. I think they should have something like that for PTR. For first reason is basically people can, it attracts everyone to try out the new thing, which is cool. And the other thing is, the flip side of that is, Blizzard can get feedback on that. You need to find all these items pretty quickly-ish, so you can test them out and give them feedback. Because the purpose of a PTR is to obviously enjoy it, but mainly is to figure out if this thing is going to be, viable in the live version of the game. So to buff the whole item find, to me it's pretty good because I have some ideas in mind, because if the build is not working, we need to figure out why, and we need to post the feedback up. And if it's too overpowered, if there's something that's just too crazy, then we have to report that as well. And the only way you can do that is by getting the items you're looking for. So it's good. It's really nice community buff, and I think that's the culprit to be blamed for the long queues. But hey, that's
yeah, I do suspect that a lot of people are just on there because they want to find lots of legendaries, and that it might have a bit of a negative impact on their view of the game once they go back to the live servers. So there is a potential kind of little negative drawback there. I feel like if they're going to do something crazy like this, like just hand out free legendaries, it should probably be in a closed PTR, like a small invite-only testing group, rather than having a lot of people in there. But I guess Blizzard wanted a lot of metrics, or maybe just to build a bit of hype as well for the upcoming stuff. But I don't know, it's certainly fun and quite the experience. Certainly. So,
but the queues are just strange. Yes, please. Yes,
yeah. So I was thinking for the end here, we'll move on to a bit of questions. We've got some questions from the community, and I'll ask the first one here for you, Holy Hermit, from Tim O. What are the changes to the Sun Wukong set? Would you like to explain those briefly?
Cool. Hi, Timo. By the way, guys, thank you. And I can say that for my friend as well. We read all of your comments, by the way. And if some comments we can't reply to straight away, I think this is the place where we're going to do from now on. So at the end of the video, we're going to keep this FAQ session, if you will, and we're going to answer the questions. So Mr. Timo, the changes to Sun Wukong said, people ask me all the time now. And that, as I explained, the 2-set bonus now is every time you use your Spirit Spender, something like Exploding Palm, something like Lashing Tail Kick, Wave of Flight, and one more skill that I'm forgetting, which is Tempest Rush. You cast a clone that deals a big amount of damage. The 4-set bonus is that enemies that are hit by that clone will take 500% more damage from the spell that the Spirit Spender you're using. So that's the Sun Wukong set for you. Remember, if you have a Flying Dragon, as far as I can see, there is no need to keep it. I guess keep it with you. Why would you salvage it? But if you're looking for one, you can stop looking for that one, and definitely, get yourself accordingly. So you want something to do with your Spirit Spender, and the reason for that is your Sanruko set has been changed. And don't worry, the changes are retrospective, as in the items you have right now, they will be automatically incorporate the new changes. So just log in the next time in the live game, and you're going to see a new Sanruko set and have fun.
Awesome stuff. So the next question comes in for Cristiano for me, and that is, this one's pretty common kind of question, so I thought I'd bring this one up too. Is Tasker and Theo still useful in 2.1.2 for Marauder 6, for the 6-piece Marauder set, so the Demon Hunter endgame? So Tasker and Theo, guys, I think probably the best way I can answer this question is actually by quoting one of my other viewers who wrote this little green text in my comment section.
This will be good.
This is from Master Devil, and he typed this. Grind for Tasker and Theo for all eternity without luck. Season start, play a different class. Randomly find Tasker and Theo in season. Put it in stash, all excited to use it on your Demon Hunter once season ends. ... Lie down, trying not to cry. Cry a lot. Oh, sorry, hear about the change. Lie down, trying not to cry. Cry a lot. So, essentially, yes, Tasker and Theo is now fairly, well, useless. It's useless for Marauder builds now. The reason being is that your sentries now fire when you fire. Their attack speed scales linearly with your attack speed. So the more attack speed you stack, the faster you can put your hatred spenders out, and the faster they will attack. No matter how fast you attack, they will attack at the exact same time as you. So Tasker and Theo literally does nothing, basically. What it does do is increases the attack speed of their auto attacks, which if you're attacking all the time, they're not really going to be doing those anyway, and it really makes no difference. Their auto attacks are, insignificant. They do basically nothing. So Tasker and Theo is sadly useless, guys, and if you put a lot of work into farming that up, I guess make a Witch Doctor and use it on that. So I guess this does bring up another interesting point, though, is that because Tasker and Theo is out, that was what people were using as their 6th item with Ring of Royal Grandeur. Probably the best option now, I think, is Cindercoat. And the reason for that is obviously the fire damage is important, but the resource cost reduction is crucial now. That they only fire when you fire, which means you need to have hatred. So reducing the resource costs of hatred as much as you can is very important to getting a lot of damage out. So I think Cindercoat's a nice replacement there. So hopefully you guys already have a Cindercoat lined up for that.
Cool.
So the next question for you, Holy Hermit, comes in from Terry Curtin, and that is, what are the implications of the Gungdo gear patch in 2.1.2?
All right, Mr. Terry. Yes, so the implication is explosive things are going to happen when you actually find that item. Now, this is related to your Exploding Palm, by the way, and dare I say this is the item. These are braces, by the way, guys, that you find right now, and you probably just chuck them away because, they're not that good. When you times this awesome item with your Sanruko set, so going back to Mr. Timo's question, you get these two items, the set and this item together, there are possibilities of dealing a lot of damage. Now, I'm not sure how much damage dealing will be, but it's something that you can definitely look forward to. And I'm almost very certain that there will be a very high level build coming out of this Gungdo gear when you actually play the next patch. So expect a Gungdo gear based Sanruko set build coming out in the future. So you don't I think the item, by the way, the ones you have right now, they won't be retrospectively changed. So I think, I'm sorry, you have to find one.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm not sure on that, so please don't quote me on that one, but I'm almost 70% sure, if I may, that you might have to farm a new one. So, but the good news really is that Exploding Palm, people have been missing that. You can actually start using that again. It's a really, really fun skill. You don't see the big explosion, but you see lots and lots of like little explosion that makes the screen go beautiful, and it's fun. So Gungdo gear definitely going to be an awesome item, and you times that with Sanruko, means good times ahead. So on to your question, sir.
Alright, so for the final question we have, how does cooldown reduction, this is actually not from anyone in particular, this just comes up a lot. How does cooldown reduction affect the Marauder 6 build in 2.1.2? So initially, when I read the changes, I thought that cooldown reduction would be almost pointless, like it'll affect your other skills, but I didn't think it would affect sentries because of the new charge system. Because the way the charge system is worded is that it's charge recovery, like when you recover a charge. But that still, despite that, is counted as a cooldown. So what happens is cooldown reduction will allow you to recover charges more quickly. Now, I still kind of stand by the idea that cooldown reduction may not be as important. It kind of depends on how you're playing exactly and the content you're doing. So what happens is, now currently with the new Marauder set, you can put down, well, with the sentry changes, you can put down all 3 or all 2 of your sentries quickly, very quickly. There's no cooldown associated with that, so you can get them all down essentially instantly. So cooldown reduction doesn't help that, but what it does help is, if you're moving constantly and needing to reposition your sentries all the time, cooldown reduction will assist with that, because it'll get you your charge back quicker. You can maybe get your charge back in 4 seconds instead of 8 seconds, and then you can reposition it. Now, if you're playing something like a build that uses Vault, so you're getting around very quickly and maybe engaging each pack a little bit more quickly, then that cooldown recovery or cooldown reduction could be fairly important. So it's certainly not completely useless. I don't think it is. I personally don't think it's as important as it was once before. I think what's now important is hatred or resource cost reduction. I think that's way more important than cooldown reduction. But it still has some use. So if you have a bunch of nice cooldown reduction gear, it's not going to be completely useless.
I think that's in general is pretty good. I was thinking about that, mate, as you were saying that resource cost reduction would be the new thing, would be the new cooldown reduction in the next patch, because at least for demon hunters and monks, that you want your spenders to cost as little as possible so you can expend lots of them, right? So I think that might be the case, right? That I'm not sure, but definitely the way the trend is going so far, yeah, cooldown cost reduction, definitely the way to go forward.
Cost reduction hype.
You heard it first here, guys. But yeah, anyways.
So I think that's probably does it for time-wise for today. But it's been awesome chatting, D3. I love doing podcasts and talk shows like this, just chatting with someone else who's really interested in the game, about the game I'm passionate about. It's awesome. I love it. So thank you for approaching me with doing this.
Hey, come on. Thank you for saying yes, guys. Close your ears again, by the way, Ziggy. You're not supposed to hear this, man. But guys, please, if you're on my side, definitely do if you live under a rock and if you don't know who this guy is, definitely go and check out his channel. I'll link it in the description and on the video. Go there, say hello to him, and watch his videos, because you will learn a lot. Not just about Diablo, but other games. And about the schedule, you can, by the way, open your ears now. I'll tap or something, that way he'll know.
Well, I guess I'll return the favor a little bit here, and guys, you should definitely give Holy Hermit a follow, because he's one of the few people in the Diablo 3 community that takes some initiative and tries to create awesome things. So I think that's definitely worth a follow.
I don't know about that, but thank you. Thank you so much. But yeah, guys, for you, by the way, as I said, the podcasts are kind of random, right? They happen at whatever time, and it's because of some real life things I have. I've got commitments that I need to take care of. I did talk about that in my last video. So, I've had an awesome guest, and we will do this at some point in the near future. We don't have a set in stone date for it, but definitely expect more podcasts from us. This was our podcast for the day. I hope you enjoyed it, and this has been the Holy Hermit for you, and my friend, Mr.
Ziggy D. Oh, yes. See you guys later.
We'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.